Mr Gordon says, all right, well, let's talk about the AW Workplace Reform Association account. That account, as you've said, is an account which was the account belonging to an incorporated association by the same name, which was incorporated by Slater and Gordon on Wilson's instructions following your advice to him, which you described earlier, and you say that's right. And then the question is, that happened in or about mid-92. Answer, that's right. Now, you're talking here about a bank account, correct?
This document, as you would be familiar, Mr Stolger, records a discussion, quite a lengthy discussion about the AWU Workplace Reform Association.
Yes.
I think Mr Gordon might have been using the terminology account because we'd been talking about election funds. I had no knowledge at that time, or knowledge at any time, about the banking arrangements of the Workplace Reform Association.
Well, isn't he saying to you, he says, that account, as you said, is an account which was the account belonging to an incorporated association by the same name, which was incorporated by Slater and Gordon at Wilson's, on Wilson's instructions. Now, he's referring to an account quite separate from the association, correct?
When you look across this discussion with Mr Gordon and Mr Shaw, there's a discussion about the Workplace Reform Association. There's a discussion then about bank accounts at the Victorian branch of the AWU. I think Mr Gordon used the term account following that discussion. I didn't know anything about the banking arrangements of the AWU Workplace Reform Association.
You understood that the association was setting up an account?
I understood
at
that...
the time, I mean.
Yeah, Mr Stolger, I understood that it was the desire of Mr Wilson and others involved in the association to have an association, to be a team that would run together for union elections and to have an account into which they would bank monies that they had fundraised for that purpose, yes.
And the account to which Mr Gordon is making reference on page 137 is that very bank account, is it not?
He's obviously referring to the discussion before, yes, but if your question to me is, and I may be misunderstanding you, Mr Stolger, and if I am, I apologise, but if your discussion to me is, did I have any knowledge of particular accounts operated by the AWU Workplace Reform Association, no, I did not.
Well, I'm not asking if you knew the account number, but the fact is that you knew that it had set up an account and was operating an account under the same name as the association.
I knew at the time that I provided legal advice on the incorporation that there was an intention to set up an account.
Well, you certainly understood as at 11 September that the account had been set up because Mr Gordon makes reference to it and then you saying that's right.
Mr Stolger, I'm not sure I can take it further for you than I have. This was a discussion where we talked about the Australian Workers' Union Workplace Reform Association, and in other sections of the discussion I make it perfectly clear that I had no knowledge of any of the banking arrangements of the Workplace Reform Association or any knowledge of its accounts.
When do you say you became aware that in fact an account had been set up by the association?
I did not become aware that an account had been set up by the association.
Well, you know as you sit here today that one was set up, I take it.
In a time sequence, sorry, because you've just jumped from this discussion in 1995 to the present day.
Yes.
In time sequence, I provided legal advice, as has been discussed here and is in my principal statement. I provided legal advice. I then had no further contact with the work of the association or its banking arrangements. Obviously, given the extensive publicity and inquiry into these matters since, I've become aware in the years since that the Australian Workers' Union Workplace Reform Association had an account.